It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. Your phone is face down on the nightstand because you promised yourself you wouldn't check it. Your brain feels wired and exhausted at the same time. You assume something is wrong with you, but the real answer is far stranger. You are not broken. You are remembering something your body was built to do long before electricity existed. For most of human history, sleep didn't look like one long, unbroken block. It looked like two. Historian Roger Ekert spent over a decade combing through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe, and he kept finding the same phrase over and over. People called it first sleep and second sleep. You'd go to bed shortly after dark. You'd sleep for 3 or 4 hours. Then you'd simply wake up. Not from stress, not from a nightmare, just naturally, the way you might wake from a nap. And here's the part that should stop you. This waking period wasn't treated as a problem, it was expected. People used it to pray, to talk quietly with a partner, to think, to have sex, to tend a fire. Then, after an hour or two, they'd fall into a second sleep until morning. Your ancestors had a name for the space between the two sleeps. You don't. You just call it insomnia. So what changed? Light changed. In the 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Weir ran an experiment at the National Institute of Mental Health that quietly confirmed what Ekert had found buried in old paper. Weir placed a group of volunteers in a room with 14 hours of darkness a night, mimicking the long nights of winter before artificial lighting. No screens, no lamps, no clocks glowing in the dark. Just darkness for 2 weeks straight. By the 4th week, the volunteers' sleep split apart on its own. They fell into roughly 4 hours of sleep, woke for 1 to 3 hours in a calm, meditative state, then slept again until morning. Nobody taught them to do this. Their bodies simply returned to a pattern that modern light had switched off. Think about what that means. The two-part sleep wasn't a quirk of one culture or one century. It was default human behavior, waiting under the surface the whole time. Electric light didn't cure insomnia. It buried an entire second half of your natural sleep cycle and told you the burial was progress. Here's where it gets stranger. That quiet waking hour, the one your great-great-grandparents used for prayer or conversation or simply lying still in the dark, wasn't wasted time. Sleep researcher Charles Czeisler at Harvard has spent decades studying what happens to the brain in low light with no external time cues, and one of the consistent findings is this. In darkness, without the pressure to be productive or fall back asleep right now, the brain drifts into a hybrid state. Not fully awake, not fully asleep, a slow, associative, low-anxiety kind of thinking. That state has a name in some sleep literature. Researchers call it quiet wakefulness. It's the same neurological neighborhood as meditation. Your ancestors sat in it every single night, unbothered, because they had nowhere else to be and no glowing rectangle demanding their attention. You, on the other hand, wake up at 3 a.m. and immediately panic. You check the time. You do math about how many hours of sleep you have left. You reach for your phone, and the blue light tells your brain it's daytime, which suppresses melatonin, which makes falling back asleep even harder. You've turned a completely normal biological checkpoint into a crisis. This is the twist. Ancient humans weren't better sleepers because their lives were simpler. They were better sleepers because they weren't afraid of being awake. Fear is the ingredient we added. Not darkness, not waking up. Fear. And that fear didn't come from nowhere. It came from a culture that turned sleep into a performance metric. 8 hours, unbroken, or you failed. Your fitness tracker agrees. Your calendar agrees. Everyone around you treats a 3 a.m. wake-up like an emergency instead of what it actually is, which is your body doing exactly what bodies did for a few 100,000 years before anyone invented the light bulb. So what did ancient humans actually do when they couldn't sleep? They didn't do anything, in the way you mean it. They didn't fight it. They didn't scroll. They didn't spiral into anxious math about tomorrow's meeting. They lay in the dark, awake, and let their minds wander until sleep came back on its own. No effort, no dread, just waiting inside a pattern their bodies already understood. There's something almost embarrassing about how simple the fix sounds, and how hard it is to actually do. You can't just decide to stop being afraid of a 3 a.m. wake up. Fear built over a lifetime doesn't dissolve because a video told you it's normal, but knowing the pattern changes something. The next time you wake up in the dead of night, staring at the ceiling, you now know you're not failing at sleep.